being able to, tell yourself the truth. That's maturity.
The emotionally immature man
Mm.
will think that expressions of anger is fine, right?
Okay,
Because you caused it.
Okay.
So I'm going to be angry at every small thing. And they
And they
feel
can
like,
even get abusive.
even beyond the abuse, just the inability to have something that you don't like happen and are able to
Deal with it.
control your anger and have a decent communication is maturity. Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Psychology of Marriage Success. I am Adaeze Chiwoko from Marriage for Real, and I'm here with Victor
Onochie from Genius Metaphor.
Today, or in this episode, we're going to talk about, is your emotional immaturity destroying your marriage? This is a huge topic.
It's a big one.
And let me tell you something. It's a personal topic.
I'd like to hear more.
Yeah, because I think that for a long time, I was going to say suffered with emotional immaturity as if it was a disease, but actually it's just a learned behavior, that I picked up.
Okay.
Yeah. So what does emotional immaturity mean to you?
Oh,
wait! We need coffee before we
coffee?
start.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, TJ.
Well, I always enjoy my coffee. Emotional immaturity.
I don't put sugar in mine. I'm sweet enough.
I like that. Sweet enough.
Forgot to mention, as always, that this episode is in partnership with Zuma Coffee.
Yep.
Which we are pretty much addicted to at this point, right? It's good.
It's always good.
It's always good.
Always good.
All right. So, what does emotional immaturity mean to you?
So I'd have to go to emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
I would say emotional immaturity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Emotional immaturity would be not being able to deal with emotions effectively, both from yourself and from others. I think that would be what emotional immaturity would be.
Yeah. I think I fully agree, but I take it a step further because I think it's the inability to understand,
yeah,
and then manage.
Yeah.
So
that's emotional intelligence.
Yeah. So you got to first understand the emotions that you're feeling and recognize them to be able to manage them.
Yeah.
And like I said, this one's a bit personal for me because it was in marriage that I realized that I was emotionally immature.
So you see what I keep on saying? Marriage is like a mirror. And I always say it's like the best personal development platform.
Yeah.
Please shoot.
Well, because I had no clue that I was before I got married. I wouldn't have even put the word immaturity anywhere near my name until I got married. But then I found that I was hypersensitive, quite defensive, felt misunderstood all the time. And this is typical of things that people who are emotionally mature would say. Responded quite negatively if things didn't go my way.
Okay.
And really struggled with seeing and accepting somebody else's perspective.
Wow.
Right? So that's all highly, and so that means that we could be discussing something that was relatively simple, and it might be a bit of a debate, but because it's not going my way or because maybe he sees things differently from me or he didn't respond in the way that I wanted to respond, I'd be defensive straight away. My back would be up. I'd feel misunderstood. You don't get me. I'd turn everything into be, it's all about me. So that's another thing that people with emotional immaturity do. Take everything personally.
Yeah.
So he used to just be like, I literally can't talk to you about anything because it's always like this big sort of thing, or you cry or you get upset or moody. So it started to really exhaust me as well. And I started to really look into it and be like, why do I behave like this? And started to realize that I'd not developed a level of maturity with getting hold of my emotions, understand what I'm feeling, and then managing them within that time. I could do it later, because that means later on, like 3 days later, I'm coming back being like, kind of sorry about the whole thing the other day when I turned this small thing into World War III.
Yeah.
But in that time, I really struggled with it. So, like, over years, this has been something that I have
developed.
Yes. And now I would say that I'm a lot more emotionally mature. Because I've been intentionally working on it. But it was causing a lot of drama in the home.
It will. I think it will. It will cause a lot of drama. And I think the first step, very important, is the fact that you recognize it. Because a lot of people do not even recognize that is a thing. They don't think it's a thing. They don't even want to see it as a thing. But it's self-awareness. Being able to know yourself, tell yourself the truth. This is where you are. I don't think there's anything wrong in self-awareness, knowing that, okay, this is a weakness you have. Because if you don't identify it, it will be a problem everywhere.
Victor, it's beyond that. There's nothing wrong with it. There is power.
Yes.
In self-awareness, and you being able to say, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? What's going on here? Yeah. I need to deal with this. That's maturity.
That's maturity. So that's what I keep on saying, that marriage is for
mature people. Yeah,
so
serious people.
And when I say matured adult, it's like, oh, somebody well put together. That's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing responsible mind. Being able to, tell yourself the truth. That's maturity. Knowing it's not about, a child always throw tantrums, thinking the world revolves around him.
Right.
He's so entitled and everything.
Right.
You understand? Oh, it's not happening for me the way I want it and all that kind of thing. That doesn't work in marriage, because you are two. It's about how can two of you have something that will be mutual for both of you. So you are both always thinking about the both of you. And so if you're not emotionally matured, you would not you won't create that space of allowing, you won't create that space. It will be too little a thing. You flip. Imagine two emotionally mature people in a marriage.
It's World War III catastrophe.
They can't.
But you know what as well? I think that working with couples, I've seen how emotional immaturity can look in both males and females.
So tell me about the male.
The male who is
emotionally mature.
The emotionally immature man will think that expressions of anger is fine. Right? Because you caused it. So I'm going to be angry at every small thing. And they feel like
get abusive.
Even beyond the abuse, just the inability to have something that you don't like happen and are able to control your anger and have a decent communication is maturity. Men feeling like, well, if I don't want to have this tough conversation with you, I'm just going to shut down, right? I'm going to retreat.
And that, you see, this part you see, so this is another thing with men, because I always see you are the stronger vessel, physically and all, but it's not something I don't think it's something you should bring to the table to trample the other person.
But that's the thing, that behavior is not strength, it's weakness.
Exactly.
Because you're enabled to control self. And true strength is the ability, first off, to control self. Self-control is strength.
It's strength.
So if small things happen, even big things happen, and your reaction always is, I'm going to get angry. It's the height of immaturity.
It is the height of immaturity. And I think staying in that, if you don't learn how to develop your emotional strength, aside from genetics and all, you could start developing mental health issues, high blood pressures, and all those kind of things. You should be able to deal with your emotions, self-awareness, to be able to know what's going on. And I tell people, you know, I have a client who always tell me, I've been praying to God to help me build my emotional intelligence and all. I said, okay, so you probably have seen this video all over Instagram where it says, when you ask God for emotional strength, he doesn't just woo-la and then you're emotional. Because you have asked for that, it is an assumption that you are present, you are self-aware to that shortcoming.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen is that you're going to be thrown into situations with a lot of things pushing at that. It's now, how do you start building the resilience to respond to those situations? You might not do well the first time, but you need to start seeing what is going on. And as you keep on being conscious of the desire to evolve past that weakness, it's muscle. It's like going to the gym. Strength by strength, you keep on doing. And at a point in time, you see you've built a little bit more capacity to deal with certain things.
Yeah.
You know. And also, I think as you keep on introspecting, your paradigm starts changing about the way you're seeing the situation.
Right.
You know, because maybe your paradigm changes about something, it changes the way you respond to that thing. And that's that part of maturity, changing how you see things.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think that was the journey that I had to go on. Learning how to analyze a situation and reason with the situation in the situation. Do you know what I mean?
In the situation.
In the situation. Not just letting my emotions tell me. And that's the thing that happens. Your emotions will tell you all sorts of stories. All sorts of things that all wrap around you. Oh, they're only doing this because he doesn't care. It's because he doesn't love you. Nobody loves you. He wants to pull you down. He wants to destroy you. So you better defend. Like, your emotions will tell you all sorts of crap.
And most times it's also from, past. Past issues that have happened, especially as a child. There's a tendency, if you had emotionally mature parents, there's a tendency you will have that emotional maturity. But if, say, one person struggled with emotional maturity, there's a tendency that you might pick it, especially if you have similarities in traits to that parent, and all.
But also, I think that, yes, if the two parents were emotionally mature, or one of them, you could pick that up. But also, if your emotions were not allowed to be expressed, and so you didn't learn how to, that's what it means when I feel this. Okay, this is the better way to handle it. If it was, and sometimes in Black culture, it can be a little bit like, you're fine, or what are you crying for? Why, why is that affecting you? Like, get over it. So
be a man.
Be a man, right? So for men, it's like, and sometimes this thing of being angry, being hard, not listening is strength. That's being a man. Not if you don't get things your way, you be over the top aggressive. That's being a man. So there's some of the wrong lessons that we got when we were growing up. And so then when you're in a relationship that challenges parts of you,
you flip.
You flip. You don't know how to deal with it.
You can't contain it. You don't have that threshold to be able to hold that emotion.
Right.
You just flip. So it's good to always know, okay, I'm upset now. Your wife is saying something, your husband is saying something, you're upset now. Why am I upset?
Great.
Why am I upset?
That's the question.
Yes. Because it's not just I am upset. You need to know, why am I upset?
Right. And the answer to that might be more about you. Than the other person or the situation. It might be because I'm insecure about this certain area of my life. Or it might be because this is highlighting a challenge to me that makes me uncomfortable about me or whatever. Those triggers are a call for you to look at yourself and be like, there's a gap here, or there's something going on that makes this area of me upset. The other thing that I think is really powerful in terms of how to deal with emotions. So that question why is just yes. And what I say about emotions is, and I teach this in my wives coaching program for women. I teach it for wives, but men should do this as well. Take your emotions out of the driver's seat and put them in the passenger seat.
That's the word.
Right? So emotions are important. We don't want to ignore them because they're highlighting something to you. but they're just bringing your awareness, like you said, to something that bothers you. So, hey, Adaeze, this is making you angry. This is really peeing you off right now. When I used to put my emotions in the driver's seat, I'd be like, right, I'm angry then, and I'm peed off. Whereas now I'm like, okay, my emotions is shouting at me. This is making you upset. Then, okay, you're in the passenger seat. You don't drive me though. Thanks for the information. Thanks for letting me know that I feel this way. Now, because I'm the driver, I'm going to ask myself why. I'm going to take control now and be like, what's going on with me? And I think we mentioned it in one of the other episodes, the ability to self-inquire, self-inquiry, checking in, what's going on with me. And then when you're able to respond from that place and reason from that place, now we can have a conversation.
And, you know, it's not saying that you don't get angry. It's not saying that, you know, you don't express, but the idea behind it is, you know, there's this saying, to be able to be angry to the right thing at the right amount. So it's really about, okay, if you're probably upset, you know you're upset, this person has done something, and the question is, at that time, is that the right time to express the anger? And how are you expressing the anger? Because sometimes you go overboard of something. Yeah, if somebody has done something wrong, you want to call the person, you know, out, your spouse and all, which I assume, my spouse is my best friend, you know. My spouse knows that I have her best interest at heart. And so even when I'm upset, in my head, I'm constantly thinking, is this the right time to express it, to get across to her, to understand this thing, how I'm not cool with it, you know.
It takes some strength.
Yeah, it takes a strength. Yeah, you have to, and that's why when I also say love is everything. It takes love to constantly think about that, to consider the other person. Because if it wasn't love, I would lash at her without considering a whole lot of things. But love would make me extend myself, you know, be more patient, try to find the appropriate time and place to express myself in the right way. Because even when I'm expressing myself, I'm observing her to ensure that I'm not just going overboard and at the point we can't even converse. And I see, I probably would say my wife, maybe she's even more emotionally more mature than me. Probably that might be a thing, because I think it's a strength she also has. But it helps that, you know, sometimes when she wants to come and tell me something, she knows it might be sensitive. She comes with the right time. She tells me, she observes me. She knows when to, you know, sometimes you've dropped a message and you just want to keep going on that message. She knows when to, like, just, I've dropped it, I have to leave it.
I call it drop a word and go.
Yeah.
Drop the word
and just go. And one of the things that happen with that is, because she knows that I take what she says serious, as she drops it, she leaves it. She knows I will think about it. I'll process it. Whatever the message is, she knows I'll deal with it. And so that's the thing, that when couples develop their maturity, there's always that consideration. You need to know, if A is unhappy, it needs to be something that really, really, you know, bothers you. You're interested in that. Why is A not happy? The same thing, like vice versa. And when it's that way, it's easier to deal with emotions. But if I know that, oh, okay, when I'm upset, Adaeze goes into stonewalling, that means you just shut it off. It will frustrate me even more.
Exactly.
So it's a two-way thing that two people really need to work together to build. First, just like we said, to understand, self-aware, understand where our strengths are when it comes to this emotional thing.
Yeah, and give grace to each other, because it is a journey.
That's the word. Give grace to each other. Give that. I mean, I want to assume that when two people come together, this is my, you know, thinking. In 5 years' time, we should be far better than we were as human beings. That means when we go 5 years into the future, I want my wife to be a better person. And I would feel that she would want me also to be a better person. There is no better place to create that than in marriage. Why? This is your best friend. This is the person you could be vulnerable to. This is the person you could tell the deepest things, whatever it is. And so this person always looks at your potential, who you can be, what you, because it's almost like, for me, my wife is almost like, she represents me out there. The same thing I representing her out there. So I'm always thinking, I want you to be the best you can be. I want you to be able to go back to your family whenever they see you and they feel that you are happy, you are enjoying your marriage. So it's a deliberate thing. How can I make you blossom more? And it's the same thing with the wife. She looks at the husband and say, how can I help him be better? And so we see ourselves and see our shortcomings. If we're emotionally struggling and all, we should be able to talk about that. And if we need help, we should be able to get help. If we need to
get
read
the
the
help
book,
if you need it.
If we need to read a book to build our awareness on it, on how to deal with it, fine. We need to go into Instagram, YouTube, share ideas. But we need to understand, because these things can be very, very dangerous in marriages.
Yeah.
Very dangerous.
So Victor, I wanted to ask you a question before we round up on this.
Okay.
There's this, one of those Indian gurus that have so much wisdom. I forget his name. It begins with an S.
Sadhguru.
It might be him. It begins with an S.
I'm sure he's the one with the white beards.
He said,
okay,
that we choose. If we get angry, it's because we've chosen anger. He says, do you like being angry? No. So why do you choose it? Okay. And my question is that, do you feel it is a choice?
Well, if I go by
actually feel that anger, yeah.
If I go by studies, the different studies I've had when it comes to emotions and all, I think it is a choice. Why? Because as human beings, we are building how we interpret things as we're growing. And that's why I talk about our philosophy of life. The truth is, whatever happens, happens. But it's now how we're going to interpret it. Because the same thing can happen to A, and the person won't be angry. So for instance, someone comes and says certain things. You might not even look at that thing as anything. But someone else would say, why would he speak to you like that? Why would he say that? Then you start learning that if somebody speaks that way, you should be angry. So you start building. So we are really an expression of what we have learned, what we have been growing to understand.
That's so interesting.
You understand? So
yeah,
there's choice in everything. There's choice in everything. Something happens to you, you choose how to. I mean, you could be in a situation where, like in Nigeria, you're driving, the police stops you, something is happening, he's holding his gun and he's holding the trigger.
Yeah, terrifying.
Yeah, okay, so at that point, instead of being angry, you would be terrified. But you might have been angry if he wasn't holding.
It's so true. And understand? I say that to people because I'm like, your boss might just say something to you, right? That you think, okay. But you're going to respond in a certain way because you're like, I actually need this paycheck at the end of the month. So you choose to say, okay, I'm not going to be angry, or I'm not going to respond in anger in this time. We'll let this go. Or your friend might joke with you in a certain way that you're like, yeah, they're only messing about. It's my friend. But then your wife or your husband does exactly the same thing. Yeah. You choose anger.
So so with this, I say it this way. It's important to see what's going on. And that's why, self-awareness, mindfulness is important, because what it does is you stepping back behind yourself and watch what is going on and see why you are feeling certain ways. Because even with couples, I always tell couples, it's very important to pay attention at the dance going on from the beginning, because it builds an interpretation of how people will deal with the things. Because certain things happen and they become trigger, and a spouse will look at certain things that have happened in the past in a way to respond to what is happening now. And that's why they say most times when you hear couple having a misunderstanding, it's not really what is happening there as much as built up things of the past, pre-whatever. So, and I say, if you want to change, somebody has to be the leader. And what do I mean by that? Somebody has to see that this trigger constantly brings up this response, that means I have to stop. I have to change the narrative. It doesn't mean automatically the other person would change. Yeah. You know, it could be that, okay, this person has become too defensive, or this person has become too antagonistic or whatever. But if you continue, if you understand the paradigm shift going on, you change how you act. Because what you're doing is both of you are playing, it's like chemistry, like it's a cocktail. You guys are reacting to yourself. So if I stop acting a certain way, that means B, over time, will now trust unconsciously that there is a change in the way I am acting. And it starts building the ability of B to start changing how they respond. Because a husband might say, or a wife might say, when I try to talk to him, he stonewalls me. They might not say stonewall, basically he doesn't listen to me. Now it might be that the man, he has built an understanding of his wife's character that she just keeps on talking, flipping, nagging. So whenever she comes to speak, he blocks off.
Yeah.
He has learned that as a behavior. How can that change? The wife now has to understand that this is nagging. Dude struggles to, process that thing. So she has to change. Sometimes, women need to understand that sometimes you need to drop the message and let him be. He hears you. He will get to a point, because it's a development thing, he will get to a point where what you are looking for, he will give it to you. And when I mean what you're looking for, you want to engage him as a woman. You want to know he hears you. He's attentive to you. But you need to start learning first to stop the nagging.
You hear that? Stop the nagging.
And when I say nagging,
I want to say something. I am a proud non-nagger. I'm not a nagger. I do not. Go and ask my husband. I do not nag.
You sure?
Go and ask him. I do not nag.
So when nagging, let's give it context. Nagging is going on and on about something. On and on. You've said it, but you feel you haven't. The message hasn't been. You go on and on about it. The ability to drop the message.
We're gonna have to do an episode on nagging.
And let it be. Dude has gotten the message. And if you feel he hasn't gotten it over time, you still come back, drop the message again, go. What you are teaching him is that you are no more nagging. He too, what will happen over time is his defensive for your nagging starts dropping. And that's why I say when people talk about prayer, I don't rule out that and all. But what I say is, whether you do anything, life has a way of coming in to assist what you're doing. So for instance, you start building muscle. You start building muscle in the gym. What will happen is nature will compensate at some point. It might be that when you have gone to sleep and everything, nature starts compensating in terms of the fat and all that. And over time, you just notice you start bulking up. It's not at that point where you were...
It's not at that point.
So it's the same thing with even things that are not physical like that. Like when you start having that kind of relationship with your husband and your wife, you stop certain things. What will tend to happen is with time, subconsciously, what we probably will say grace or whatever, call it that. Will come into the space to help him also change.
Well, that's what happened with me. My husband's response to my emotional immaturity is what helped me change, because he just wouldn't respond to it. I would literally be bouncing from one wall to the next, climbing up the wall with like, and he would say the most annoying thing to me. He would say, when you're ready to sit down and have a mature conversation, I'm here. Oh my gosh.
That's like,
I would be like, but over time, I had to start learning that I don't get anywhere when I'm bouncing up and down the wall. He will literally sit there with the TV remote and change the channel while I'm going
all around
the way. So I started to realize if I actually want to get the best out of the response, I'm going to have to sit down, work on these emotions,
true,
and have a conversation with him.
True. So, and that's another thing about, we're talking before the video, we talked about personality types and all, that we really need, some people they're cool, like they can handle their emotions. Like
you can handle it.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So if you are the type that is like raw fire burning,
Yeah.
you need to know how to, and I tell people who are very, very emotional and all, it's not a bad thing. The issue is really how you are using it.
Yeah.
It's the management of it. Because emotions can be passion that you could use to drive a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's like fire burning. If you don't control the fire burning, it will burn down everything. Yes. It will burn down everything. Because there's a place for fire, there's a place for water.
Exactly.
So you have to manage these things.
Yeah.
And when you're able to manage them, you use it well. Because you could use that same emotion to inspire your partner.
Yes, which I do.
Yeah, I'm sure you do that. Because if you say you're that means you should be somebody who inspires your partner a lot. So, I mean, it's really worth looking into. And like I said, I think the first things first is we need to recognize self-awareness that this is a deficiency. And I think take it a step further. Talk to your spouse about it.
Yeah.
I think I have a shortcoming. Don't say weakness, because if you feel you don't want to say that. Because languages,
shortcoming is a weakness. If it's a weakness,
it's a weakness. No, it's a weakness. Yeah. So it depends on how you and your partner are. But I'm saying, shortcoming might be, I don't know. But I'm saying, yeah, you understand the drift.
Okay.
So you're like, I think I have a shortcoming when it comes to dealing and managing with emotions. And
yeah,
it is I will tell you. So that's vulnerability.
And that's what I say
talking about even intimacy.
Yeah, exactly.
These are what build intimacy.
Exactly.
Your ability to come to your spouse and say, I think I have a shortcoming. You probably don't need to go much about it. But what you're doing to her is you are acknowledging something the person sees and feels. And it's a lot. And that's when the person is going to be willing to even help.
Right.
Or be part of whatever you're doing in trying to deal with that thing.
Give you grace.
Because even the person might also say, yeah, probably I too have the challenge.
Right.
And when that happens, that's where people are now going to be able to say something like, let's see how we can do to work on this thing.
Exactly.
Because the truth is, I always tell couples, if you can deal with that thing, it makes you a better person outside too. You're going to have children. They are going to become teenagers.
Hey, you better check your emotions when they become teenagers.
So a lot of things you are trying to do to develop yourself, is nature trying to help you for certain periods in your life.
Right.
And there are going to be more responsibilities. You're going to build things together. You're going to lead people. The very fundamental strength of a leader is his emotional intelligence.
Right.
Nothing more. Because it's people you're dealing with.
Right.
And to deal with people, you have to have your emotions in check. You need to know when to be hard on people. You need to know when to be soft on people. And you need to know how to deal with people as you deal with individuals. So marriage is, first of all, just accept that you don't have it all figured out. But this is a platform where I can become the best I can be. Like I said, it's a nurturing ground. And both of you have to recognize that we are in this to build ourselves to be better for the world, to enjoy ourselves. Challenges will come. And the more we keep on building ourselves, we'll be able to deal with certain challenges that will come. They will come.
Love it.
They will come.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm happy I got this off my chest.
I really feel like you did.
I did, right?
Yeah, I really feel like you did. Good. All right. I think that's the end of this episode.
Was it the coffee?
It might have been the coffee, getting high on the Zoom of coffee. But no, I learned a lot. Like I was listening, you're right. It's Adaeze Chiwoko from Marriage for Real and
Victor Onochie, Genius Metaphor.
Yeah, and if you're not following us already, make sure you do hit that subscribe button right here on YouTube. And on Spotify, the Psychology of Marriage Success. If you're not following us on Instagram,
and share it with somebody.
Share it with somebody.
Might need to hear something else.
Somebody might need to hear this. Sometimes you could be talking, and all you need to do is just drop them a link. I'm not saying this is you. I'm not calling you emotionally immature. I'm just sending you something. If you're not following me, follow me on Instagram at marriage4real. What's your handle?
I am Victor_Onochie, then for Genius Metaphor at Genius Metaphor. That's it.
Awesome. We'll see you in the next episode.